And Kathy, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for an open dialogue. Attendance today at the Helping Parents Heal meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. However, these Zoom meetings are very helpful to parents all around the world, and they are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members who are not able to attend live can also watch. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about the many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And I just have to quickly say before I read a little bit about Carol, that she's obviously a very, very good friend. She lives here in Cave Creek, and I feel very fortunate for that. I also am really grateful that she is a caring listener. She runs the Cave Creek affiliate group. She's on the board, and she also does book club online for us. And she also is an admin for our site. She does so much for us, and we are truly, truly grateful. But I'm just going to read a little bit of an introduction. She's going to be discussing her new book, Mom, I'm Not Gone, Tyler Lives. Following the passing of her 19-year-old son, Tyler, Carol Allen explains what transpired to help her rise from a state of darkness and despair, a hole so deep she couldn't fathom crawling out of it, to a state of light and peace, navigating her way back to happiness. In her heartfelt and inspiring story, Carol illustrates the undeniable evidence that death is not the end. With Tyler holding her hand from the other side while he orchestrates her healing, she finds her way back to a life that once again feels worthwhile. Through Tyler's numerous messages and signs, she knows that their relationship will continue and she can connect with her son. Carol's intent for putting her story in writing is to provide healing and comfort to the reader so that they too can open their hearts to those who have passed, to let them help them move forward towards healing and happiness. Deep inside our core, we can hear, see, feel, and hug them, knowing that overall, the only temporary aspect of our relationship isn't the time we spend together, but rather the time we spend apart. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to my dear friend, Carol Allen, and welcome her to Helping Parents Heal. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you, Kathy and Irene. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. I am so grateful. I really appreciate it. And I can say with certainty that what I have discovered is that our children are definitely not gone, and they want us to be happy, and we can definitely continue our relationship with our kids. And so what I've done is this book was, I started 4 years ago. In about 8 months, I heard Tyler say, Mom, it's time to finish your book. But my book, Mom, I'm Not Gone, I've compiled numerous validations with pictures and evidence to show that our kids are very, very much alive. So I hope, and I know that I'm sure you all can find that same evidence, but let me tell you a little bit about my story for those of you who do not know me. I was born in Ohio and I grew up Catholic. I attended Catholic schools, in fact, most of my life until we moved to Arizona and when I was 13, and then I did go to a public high school. But even with this foundation of God and religion and church, the older I got, the less I believed in God. And I can say that I got to a point where I really didn't believe in God at all. And for a few reasons. Part of it is I'm a very black and white person, and I like proof. And secondly, I always wondered, if we have this all loving God, then why is there so much pain in this world? You know, why am I one of the lucky ones, but others suffer and struggle so much? It just didn't make sense to me. So rather than search for answers or try to find God, I just concluded that life on earth was all there was. And I was okay with that, except for an incredible fear of death. I had an incredible fear of death. And that fear goes all the way back to when I was a little girl. I can clearly remember my mom just casually saying to me one day, well, we're all going to die. And that just sent me down the rabbit hole. I thought, I'm going to die. You're going to die. And as a little girl, I'm asking all of my friends and my cousins and my sisters, I'm saying, do you know we're going to die? I was like obsessed. And they were so lackadaisical. They would just say, yeah, I know. And then they'd run off and play. And yet I would spend nights crying over this. And the reason I'm mentioning this is I believe it's an important part of my story. So I met my husband in 1986. We were married in 1990, and we raised two beautiful children, two boys in Cave Creek, Arizona, TJ and Tyler. TJ is currently 29. He's my oldest son. He's absolutely amazing. We're very close. He's got a huge heart. He's an amazing, amazing young man. He also is very strong-willed. And even when he was a little boy, I remember getting that book, What to Do with Your Strong-Willed Child, because he did not like authority. He likes to be in charge. He's very driven, highly, highly intelligent. I mean, he would talk about what college he was going to from the time he was just a little boy. But, and he's still that way, but he truly is, he has a heart of gold. And I mean, my kids are everything to me, both of my boys. And then there was Tyler, and Tyler is forever 19. And Tyler, I can honestly say that from the time he was a baby, and I'm not just saying this now because of the fact that he's on the other side, but from the time he was a baby, I used to say, I feel like I'm raising an angel. I mean, he was just absolutely this sweet, loving, bright light, so easy to raise, full of compassion, full of gratitude, just everybody's best friend. I mean, he had a lot of empathy. He would get his feelings hurt if he saw someone mistreated. He would befriend, he would befriend the kid that others were making fun of. He's just a truly, truly bright light. And he still certainly is. When he was 14, he came home one day from school and he was slurring his speech and he couldn't really walk straight. And I didn't know what was going on. And it's almost as though he'd had a stroke. So I rushed him to the hospital and they immediately admitted him. They said that they thought he was hemorrhaging in his brain. Fortunately, he was not, but he was in the hospital a week. And after numerous tests, they concluded that he had a virus that went into his cerebellum, causing all the problems. And the good news was they told us that he would make a full recovery. They said it will take some time, but he will make a full recovery. And it took a good month for him to get back to normal. He was only in the hospital for a week, but it did take a month. But they also told us that we were extremely lucky because that same virus could have traveled to other parts of his body or parts of his brain and very likely have become fatal. So I'm telling you this because this is also an important part of the story that I'm going to talk about tonight. But anyway, Tyler, once he graduated, he decided he wanted to go to NAU, and basically just because he liked to snowboard. He was not into school. He just wanted to have fun. He just did what he could to get by. He was a C student, sometimes a D, so he had to work incredibly hard to find his way into NAU, but he did. And we moved him into a dorm. And within a couple weeks, he called me and said, "Mom, I'm not a college kid." He said, I'll finish out the year, but then I want to come home. And so I said, well, it's only been a couple weeks. Give it some time. But if at the end of the semester you feel the same way, then you can come home then. And that's what he did. I mean, a semester later, he was back home. He did not know what he wanted to do with his life. So then he chose to move to Los Angeles, where his brother was then living. And I knew he would not like Los Angeles. I mean, Tyler loved the mountains and hiking and tranquility. He would camp. He loved everything about nature. But I felt like he needed to figure that out for himself. So I told him I would rent an apartment for him, but he needed to make some decisions, and that then he would have to figure it out, whether going to school or trade school. He was very good with his hands. He would mess with his bicycles and he would install my hardware if I got new hardware. He was a natural with his hands. So 5 months later, while he was in Los Angeles, he called me and he said, "Mom, I figured it out." He said, "I know what I want to do." And he was so excited. He said, "I want to move back to Phoenix and go to MMI, Motorcycle Mechanics Institute." Well, I was not happy about this. I was not happy. And it was very hard for me not to support Tyler, but I was afraid. And although my husband had ridden motorcycles his whole life, this is different. This is my baby. And I don't want my baby on a motorcycle. I don't want him riding and around him. But my husband reminded me that he is a grown man and we needed to let him live his life and pursue his dreams. So I begrudgingly zipped my lips and allowed him, supported him in his decision. And we got him into MMI. It was a 1-year program. 2 years short of graduating, he had a motorcycle accident. It was May 13th, 2015. A woman made a left turn right in front of him and they collided. He was rushed to the emergency room and he passed away on May 14th. So, as you can all imagine, the devastation. After a couple weeks, when the shock started to wear off, because our bodies do go into shock, thank God. Once the shock started to wear off, I went into such a dark place. I was in a deep depression. I lost almost 30 pounds. I stopped working. I was full of rage, full of sorrow. No one could reason with me. I just could not imagine. I could not imagine living in this world thinking that I was never, ever going to see my child again. And at that point, I didn't believe in anything. I truly thought he was gone. And it would anger me when people would say to me, "Well, you have such a support system. You have a great family and a great marriage and another great kid." Yes, I do. And I knew that. But if I had nothing and I was homeless on the streets, I would not have been any lower than I was. I would not have been any lower. And people would also say, "Well, you should keep yourself busy. You should maybe go back to work." And that would make me mad because I thought, go back to work? What is wrong with these people? I can barely brush my teeth, let alone work. And I truly was I was just in a really, really dark hole. But I can tell you that Tyler was not about to let this happen. He was not about to let his mom wither away. And he set out to prove me wrong. originally he couldn't get through to me. If I'd had a sign slap me across the face, I wouldn't have picked up on it, because I was in such deep despair. So he started coming through to his friends. And the first message I got was from his friend David, who one evening called me, or he didn't call me, he sent me a text, and he said, Carol, do you see the cross in my watch? And there was a picture of his watch, and I looked at that picture, and I could see clear as day the watch he was talking about, but the cross he was talking about, but it wasn't just a T. The kids, David and his friends, had installed a cross at the accident site. And this cross in there was the face of the watch, and in the face, this is what the cross was like. It was just like the cross at the accident site. And what David said is that he glanced at the time and he saw a smudge on his watch. And when he looked closely, he said right before his eyes, this cross appeared. And he said then he snapped a picture really quick and then it disappeared. And he sent it to me. And, my sister printed it out. And what we discovered was that the smudge was actually a rainbow around this cross. But honestly, I saw this and I felt briefly happy, and then I discounted it. I marked everything off as a coincidence for so long. Poor Tyler, he was working so hard. One of his friends, Nicole, told me that, she'd had a dream, and the only thing that happened in her dream is she got a text message, and the text message said, from Tyler, I'm finally home. And she said when she woke up the next morning, she looked at her phone because it felt so real. She was convinced that Tyler had sent her a text, and it was so confusing to her. Of course, the text wasn't there. But when I got this message about the dream, I responded in my mind. I didn't say it. I said, his home is with me. It didn't make any sense to me. I just said, his home is with me. Well, finally, Tyler was able to start to break through to me. And the first time, and I heard his physical voice, I was in the garage because Tyler was always in the garage messing around with his tools. And I heard him suddenly say, hey, mama. And of course, I stopped in my tracks, but immediately thought, I'm losing it. I'm losing my mind. So even though I heard his physical voice, I marked it off as a weird coincidence, or I was losing my mind. What was much more powerful to me was when I started to hear him in my mind. And I know that sounds crazy. Hearing him in my head is more powerful than hearing his physical voice. However, the things he would say to me were things that I would not say to myself. And an example is I was crying and screaming, and I was screaming at him, and I said, Tyler, how am I supposed to live without you? I am in agony. I am miserable. And I heard him say, clear as day in my head, it was his voice, but it was in my head, you have to, mama, you have work to do. And I immediately thought, what? I have work to do? I wouldn't have said I have work to do. That was the last thing. I would have said, I have another child that needs me. I have another child that I love as much. It's just as important. I have a husband who loves me. I would have said anything, but I have work to do. So when I heard that, I said, I want you back. And I immediately heard, I'm here. Now, I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story because I would like you to read the book, but I can tell you that something incredibly miraculous happened after that. But still, days later, I started to question it and pick it apart until I literally got to the point where I had run out of excuses for these insane, crazy, amazing signs that were happening. And then I heard Tyler say to me, Mom, you need help. And I remembered Elizabeth. Elizabeth had attended the service. I did not know her. I'd never heard of Helping Parents Heal. but her daughter knew my son. And she attended with 2 other moms that are also in my group and I'm friends with now that I also didn't know, but their kids knew Tyler, so they came to the service. And I remember as I was about to step into the limousine that was taking us from the celebration of life to the cemetery, I saw her approach me. And she walked up and she said, you know, I'm Elizabeth, my son passed away, and you know, please reach out when things settle down because you may need help. And it's funny because now I'm, you know, I'm so close, and Elizabeth is one of my closest friends. And she tells me now, she said, it was so uncomfortable for me walking up to you at that moment. And she said, and even Kim and Nita, the other 2 moms, she said, they said, this isn't the time to walk up to her. But she said, I felt Tyler. I felt him pushing me. She says, and it was my last opportunity because they weren't planning to go to the cemetery. And there's so many people in the church. And she said, and I didn't want to, but I still came over. Well, that's not a coincidence. Tyler has sent Elizabeth to me. And I tell her this, I said, there were lots of other moms that had reached out, but I remembered Elizabeth. And I remembered when I heard Tyler say, Mom, you need help. Immediately I heard, reach out, you may need help. So I reached out to her and we met the next day. She immediately responded and we met at a little local coffee shop with my husband. And as soon as she approached us, she was so warm. She hugged me, she hugged Tony, and she started telling me her story about Morgan. And she told me how he had hugged her. And she told me that there was the veil between us was as thin as a piece of wax paper. And she said he was, you know, he wanted me to be happy and that I can connect with him and that I can learn to meditate. And she said that we have soul, that you know, this was predetermined, and we have soul plans and nothing could have changed the outcome. And the craziest part is, here I had spent weeks questioning everything that was happening, but yet she tells me this. And it's as though I'm a child whose mom is telling me something. I believe her. I don't question it for a second. I suddenly feel like, oh, this is the answer. This is the truth. Tyler is here. So I started to tell her about all these signs that were happening. And she was so, excuse me, she wasn't one bit surprised. She said, of course he's giving you signs. Tyler is home and we are still in school. And as soon as she said that, my mind flashed back to Nicole's dream where Tyler had sent that text that said, I'm finally home. And it suddenly had an entirely different meaning to me. And I remember thinking, wow, that is such a beautiful perspective. So the next day, I woke up and mornings were brutal. You know, the reality would slap me in the face. However, I refused to give into it. I refused. I thought, you know, I can do this. I can do this. I want answers. And I thought, Elizabeth said we have a soul plan, you know, that this was, and then I thought, why would we plan something this horrific? I was on a mission to find answers. And I started ordering every single book that Elizabeth had recommended to me. I started ordering every book I can get my hands on and then some. I started researching the internet for anything to shed some light. I was searching near-death experiences. I was searching afterlife communication. And I found some amazing videos, and I've put them in my book about near-death experiences. And I also discovered Brian Weiss. And Brian Weiss is a psychiatrist. He wrote Many Lives, Many Masters. And he does past life regressions. I never thought about reincarnation. I never believed in it. But I also found Ryan Hammonds, I believe is how his name is pronounced, and James Leininger. And they had verifiable evidence of past life. And I started thinking, would that answer my questions? Why some people struggle more than others? And I thought, it's almost like I felt like I suddenly might have the answer to one of my questions when I used to say, if there's an all-loving God, why would some of us have good lives and some of us struggle? And I thought, maybe we come back numerous times to learn lessons, and every life is different and some are more difficult. So I remember that did give me, that did give me a little bit of clarity at that point. I started to feel like maybe I was figuring it out. And then about, I don't know, a week later, my sister Marilyn, who's always believed in the afterlife. And I literally used to laugh at her and tell her she was wasting her time and her money when she would see mediums. But I know that Marilyn was put in my life for a reason. But Marilyn called me to tell me that she booked a reading with a psychic medium. And she said to me that she really wanted a face-to-face meeting, but she logged on to the best psychic directories, and she said for some reason she was drawn to Renee Richards. She didn't know anything about her, but she said, I just kept going back to her even with all these names. So of course, so she took it as a sign because she believed in signs, and she immediately booked the reading. She said she was just had this, but she paid with her friend's debit card or credit card because her friend had no relationship to me or Tyler. And she also used her husband's company's cell phone number, and she used a fake name because even though Marilyn believed in it, number one, she knew that I would question everything if she had any kind of information. And she loved, and my family loves Tyler so dearly. And she, for her own sake, she now wanted to know with 100% certainty that this is real, because now she's affected by Tyler's passing. And she wanted to be able to talk to him and know that this was real as well. So within minutes, Renee is absolutely fabulous. I mean, she is the most compassionate, amazing woman. We've since really I've gotten to know her, and she's wonderful. But one of the very first things she said to my sister was he riding a Harley? And Marilyn said, yes, he was. And she screamed. She said, that's why you picked me. She said, I ride a Harley and he feels a connection to me. Well, he sure does, because he's always popping in on her readings. But her validations, they blew me away. Marilyn recorded the whole session and sent it to me. It just blew me away. She knew everything. She also said to me what Elizabeth said. She said this was in divine order. She said if he hadn't been on that motorcycle, something else would have happened, because it was an exit point and he took that exit point. It was his time. And she said he also had an exit point when he was 14, something with his brain, which floored me. I couldn't believe it. She said he wasn't ready at 14. He still had things to do. And that was when he had that virus that entered the cerebellum. So weeks later, well, I shouldn't say weeks later, it was a little while, because my sister Marilyn, shortly after Tyler's passing, had booked a reading for me with Suzanne Wilson. And it took 6 months to get in with her. And that's why she booked it early on. She figured by 6 months I would be ready. So my reading with Suzanne had approached, and it was an in-person reading. Marilyn went and paid her in cash, again, because she wanted no way to research me. And the only thing Suzanne did have was my first name. And I went with my husband. And the very first thing that Suzanne said, she said, does May 14th mean anything to you? And I said, and we both said yes. And Suzanne, I have it recorded. So it's like I listened to the recording and I listened to it before I put it, a lot of the validations in my book. But the first thing she said was, I don't know anything about you, but there is a young male here, and he just pulled up on a tricked out Harley, and he says, Mom, remember when? And then she immediately stopped and she said, "Oh my God, you lost a son." Of course, we both lost it and we started to cry. But I will tell you, it was an incredible reading. I literally felt like I was having a one-on-one conversation with Tyler. The things she said, even if she knew my whole story. And I did document, a lot of the reading, at least the profound, the validations that blew us away. I put them in my book. But she also said he had an exit point when he was 14. Again, her and Renee had so many similarities in what they told us. So I can say that, I left that reading and the healing that started to occur. And I just would talk to Tyler, and the happier I became, the more I heard him, the more I felt him. I would meditate. I started yoga. I started my affiliate meetings within a year and a half. I went from feeling like I was not able to move forward. I felt like I thought I was just gonna die, to holding meetings a year and a half later. And I hear Tyler, we have conversations constantly, and they're not serious conversations. They're the same conversations as if he was, if he was physically here. He'll yell at me if I do something stupid. I'll hear him say, "Mom, get a grip." He'll yell at me if I'm driving too fast, but he helps me constantly. And I was on the phone. I'm a caring listener, as Elizabeth said, and I was having a conversation with a woman about a month ago. And I had an appointment to show a home because I'm a real estate agent. And I got very caught up in the conversation, and I won't drive when I'm on the phone with a caring listener because I want to be focused. So all of a sudden she says to me, "Okay, thank you so much. I have so much hope," which there's no better medicine for me than having somebody tell me that I gave them hope. But I hang up the phone and I look at the time and I see that I'm going to be about 20 minutes late to meet my clients to show the house. It was the very first time I was meeting them. And I didn't know what to do. I thought, I can't call them and tell them I was a caring listener because my son passed away. I thought they're going to think I'm crazy. I'd never even met these people before. So I immediately got in my car and I said, "Tyler, you have to help me. You have to help me. I don't want to call them and tell them I'm running late." And I heard him laughing. He said, "Mom, you're running 20 minutes late. If I give you every green light, you are not going to get there, in less than 20 minutes. And all of a sudden, my clients call me and they said, "Carol, we have a flat tire. We're going to be about 30 minutes behind." So once we hung up, I just started to laugh and I said, "Tyler, you did not need to give him a flat tire." Which Tyler did not give him a flat tire, but Tyler knew. He knew that they were going to be late, and he knew that this woman I was talking to, that it was much more important to keep talking to her. And if they weren't going to get a flat tire, I'm convinced he would have reminded me that I needed, to speed things up because I had an appointment. But I can just tell you that I just feel so connected to him, and that was my fear. It's just, and if I do feel sad at times, because of course I'm human, and of course we always miss their physical presence. One more thing, I had 2 mediums, and I feel like all my questions have been answered. I had 2 mediums over the course of these past 6 years that have said to me that I was way too hung up on my earthly life, that I was way too afraid of death. And Tyler chose to come here. Tyler chose to come here to help me grow. And nothing would have sent me on a search for answers except the unimaginable. And before I open it up for questions, I just want to read one portion, my first Thanksgiving without Tyler physically with us. And then I'll just open it up in case anyone has any questions. Okay. And hopefully I don't cry. I'm not a crier, but every time I would edit this book and read it, I would cry, happy tears, but I would just cry. So this is chapter the holidays. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day had arrived. While everyone was hustling around in the kitchen and preparing our favorite last-minute holiday dishes, my mind wandered back to the prior Thanksgiving. Gathering with our entire family was one of the things that Tyler loved the most. I closed my eyes as I desperately tried to remember Tyler's beautiful words. I'm not gone, I'm not gone, I'm not gone. But all I could see when I opened my eyes was the empty chair where my boy should have been sitting, digressing back to my insatiability. My sister placed a candle and a beautiful rose in front of the empty chair. I stared as the flame from the candle seemed to come alive. We sat down and raised our glasses as we waited for Tony to make his toast to Tyler. To Tyler, we all love and miss you, son. Late that evening, I stepped out back into the cool, crisp air. We did it. We made it through our first major holiday, I thought. The silence was deafening. Ahead, I noticed a small, bright light shining on the lawn. Where was it coming from, I wondered. I walked over and bent down, placed my hand on it. One by one, tiny lights started to appear, forming a circle around me. Could this be real? That wonderful feeling was back. The hot, tingling sensation fully encompassing my body. Absolutely incredible, I thought, while wiping the tears from my cheeks. I was radiating all sorts of emotion, and I was excited to share this miracle with Tony. Regardless of the direction, every step I took, these lights would follow and surround me. There was a point where I actually began to laugh as the lights continued to follow me, not necessarily behind nor in front of me, but rather at my side. Tyler seemed to always defy all odds and gave me strength whenever I was faced with moments of weakness. I have come to realize that this was more than just an encounter, but Tyler's way of sharing with me that wherever I happen to step, there too, Tyler will be. Mom, I'm not gone. And I held it together, but so that's all I have for now.
That was beautiful, Carol. Oh my goodness gracious. And I just want to tell you that there's so many people saying that they can't wait to read your book and that they just love being able to attend your meetings as well. And I want to tell everyone that it really was incredible to see the change in you and to be sitting at your dining room table, having you say, I think I'm ready to hold meetings here. It was so soon after Tyler transitioned. And I knew you were ready, but it was just so heartwarming to think that you realized that you were ready to start holding meetings. And I think that you are such a good example of this, as are all of our caring listeners, all of our affiliate leaders, that being able to help others helps us so much. Being on the phone with, as a caring listener, talking to that person and being late to this appointment that you actually weren't late to is just something that we all feel compelled to do, because it just is so important to us to be able to help, to reach a hand back and help others forward, which you do all the time. And I just wanted to ask you, I'm sure that there are going to be questions, but I wanted to ask you if you could describe one of the most incredible signs that Tyler has sent you and that you could definitely not explain away. I mean, I know that there are a lot of them in the book, but maybe just one of your favorites so that we can give people an idea of what kind of things Tyler does.
Well, one of my favorites, and it always has been, is there's a reflection of Tyler's face on Tony's helmet at the service. From the Tony ended up riding Tyler's motorcycle there. Tyler, we had gifted him a motorcycle. So when he had the accident, he was actually on Tony's motorcycle because Tyler's had a nail in the tire. So Tony's motorcycle was totaled, but we still had Tyler's. And Tony fixed the nail in the tire, and he decided to ride to the service because we had about 30 kids from MMI who came over that morning, and Tony decided to ride the motorcycle from the service to the cemetery. And my nephew's girlfriend took a picture of Tony on the motorcycle, and in his helmet, if you expand the helmet, there's a perfect reflection of Tyler's profile, and he's smiling. And I just knew when I saw that it was so incredible. I mean, it was so incredible that for a moment I was wondering if somebody, you know, messed with the picture. But I went back to the very original picture that my nephew's girlfriend had placed on Facebook, and I looked at it, and there it was. I expanded it, and you could see his reflection. And it's, you know, I just I knew that he was there. He saw everything. I mean, there's just been he's been so powerful, and truly I know that it's because if he wasn't able to come out as strong as he did, I mean, I know we all feel this way, but our kids work hard. They just won't. They want us happy. And I never feel guilty when I'm happy. I never feel guilty. Tyler knows how much I love him. I talk to him all day long. Everyone who knows me knows how much I love him. So when I don't feel guilty when I'm happy. I love helping others, and I love enjoying my life. And life is so quick. I mean, it's been 6 years, and I feel like it was yesterday. I thought before I know it, we are all going to be right back together.
Well, and I just want to say that you have been writing a book since, I think, when I first met you, but going
I started
back
writing
right away, but then you kind of changed it in the middle, but we can talk about that after. I just want to go back to the moment when I first went up and spoke to you. That was so emotional for me, because one of the things that was hard was that all of these kids were there from MMI. So they were all on motorcycles. They were all beautiful kids. Your husband, Tony, who's such a sweet teddy bear, but he just looked so imposing on that motorcycle. And you were getting into this beautiful limousine with your sisters, with your family. And I just thought, gosh, I can't bother these people right now. But I did. I felt almost like I was being pushed across the parking lot to go talk to you, and you're disappearing into the limousine. But that moment, and actually I did record it, was just beautiful. After, when everyone went off to the cemetery, it was just so emotional. But I wanted to tell you some of the things that people are saying here. Everyone thinks you're just so amazing. They're ordering your book. Thank you for sharing your story to us and giving us hope. This is John that's saying that. Dixie is saying, oh, Carol, that was so beautiful. Camille is saying, I love your book, so heartfelt, honest, comforting, and validating. John is also saying, every time I have crossed paths with you, Carol, you've always been amazing as a shining light parent. Karen's saying, that was wonderful to hear, Carol. Thank you so much for all you do to help us newer parents in this group. Carolyn is saying, I ordered your book earlier today. Cannot wait to read. You really are an inspiration, Carol. CK is saying, thank you, Carol and Elizabeth and HBH. Joe is saying, thank you, Carol. You and Tyler bring the seemingly impossible into this reality. Much love to you both. Belle is saying, I get some signs, but I always seem to talk myself out of what I hope are signs. I too am a person who is black and white. So hopefully what you've been saying tonight will allow everybody to understand that even if we do see things in black and white, that our kids want us to see them in color. They want us to see that these signs are actually real. And then Mary Margaret is saying, with great love, there are miracles. Teresa is saying, I had never attended a meeting and my house was quiet. Everyone was in bed. So I logged on to her Cave Creek meeting. It was late here, East Coast, but I was early waiting for the meeting to start. And I heard someone saying, Teresa, hello, LOL. I got to chat a couple minutes before the meeting started, and she was such a wonderful hostess, which is obviously always true. So Anne is asking, do you think that Tyler guided you to write this book? And do you recommend mediums? I guess you might want to just give some ideas again of who you saw, but do you think that Tyler guided you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tyler definitely guided me to write this book. Tyler is present in everything I do. I mean, it's when you say, and I went from not believing in any signs and picking every sign apart to everything's a sign to me now. Everything, all day long. I'm like, hi, honey. Thank goodness for Bluetooth, because otherwise when I'm in my car, people would be thinking I was crazy because I'm always talking to him. And he's every song, we have these conversations, and every song that's coming on, it's like I can relate to him. And I definitely highly recommend a medium, because for me, truthfully, I mean, all these amazing things were happening, but to get that validation, to have this medium, I felt it was like a one-on-one conversation. I mean, it was incredible. I went home and I'm kissing his pictures, and it was, it was like, he's here. It was just more validation. I don't need readings anymore, because I even had a reading with Isabella Johnson, who I love. And she said to me, okay, this is going to sound really strange, but Tyler is telling me that you don't need a medium, that you can hear him. And she said, I don't usually tell people that who pay me for a reading that, they don't need a reading, but he wants to tell you. And I know that, but every once in a while, it's fun. It's fun to get validated from someone else. But
well, and I just want to say also that one of the things that happened to you very early on in your journey was that you had several healings with David Router, who is one of the best people in the whole wide world. He is an Australian healer, and he helped you clear your energy, helped you to better meditate. And I want everybody here to know that David's going to be at the conference. He's so soft-spoken, so quiet, and so giving that sometimes we have a tendency to not talk a lot about him. But just for all of you all to know, don't miss his session if you're coming to the conference, because he will teach you how to get rid of things that are negative and get back to what you need to be doing to get in touch with your kids. So I think that that's something too that probably really helped you. Don't you think, Carol?
100%. This energy stuff, it's real. It's real. And I have learned that, this is all stuff that it's just so funny how much I've changed, and it's real and it works. And David, I love David, and he helped. And in the beginning, he had exercises that I did, and I did them constantly every night, every morning. I don't need to do them anymore. I do a lot of yoga. I teach yoga, and I attend Elizabeth's yoga classes because it's fun to be a student. Not to always teach. I like to be a student, but it works. This energy stuff is real, and David is amazing, and I highly recommend him. He helped me, and he helped my son TJ quite a bit. He helped TJ quite a bit.
Oh yeah, definitely TJ as well. But Teresa's asking an interesting question. How do you feel about God now?
Well, I believe in God. I just see God, and I heard what's her name? Anita Morjane. How's I heard her on Dr. Oz once, and I think she stated it perfectly. She said, God is not an individual being who sits up there, and she said it's as though God is our palm, and we are all extensions of God. And she said, if we would just know that we were all connected and all part of God, we wouldn't have, the fighting and the competition, because ultimately we are all one with God. And that's, so yes, I believe in God. I believe we are all part of God. And I think we are here. I believe my journey, because I was one of these people that had tunnel vision. And I thought, okay, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house, that your kids have to grow up with a dog. I mean, I had this image of the way life was supposed to be. And, one of my lessons is showing me that, hey, everything is not like that. And I forgot where I was going with the story, but I'm trying to think where I was going with this. As far as where I had images of where life was supposed to be. But anyway.
Well, that was perfect. And I just want to say that in terms of God, I think that one thing that I've learned on this journey is that God is within all of us, that we are all a part of God. And I think that before, I always felt like we were supposed to be separate from God, but we're all a part of this huge God force that is supposed to be helping others. We've all got this enormous love inside of us that we want to share with everyone else. And that is what we're supposed to be doing in this life. And that is the reason that we're in school, is to help others. And I know that, Carol, you have understood that more than so many people. I mean, it's just so exciting, because for you, it's true. You experience this incredible sadness and incredible pain, but have come through it and have been able to help so many other people. There are
Well,
several-
and actually, I remembered now where I was going with that, when I said I had this vision of the way life was supposed to be. And now I realize, I'm still a wife, I'm still a mom, but I truly believe that my vision is about helping others. And that's what I'm here for. And hopefully someday when I could retire, it could be a full-time 100% parent deal.
Yes.
I really, my lesson is saying, hey, life isn't always the way it's supposed to be. And that's okay. It's okay.
Well, and I think that our lives are pretty amazing. And, one of the things that makes them so amazing is being able to know every single day that we can reach out and help someone to heal, because that's all that this whole life is about, is being able to reach a hand out and say, things are going to get better. And you are a shining example of that, as sad as you can be, and as, of course, having our children transition is the most devastating thing in the world. But at the same time, oh my gosh, we learn so much from it. I mean, Carol, what have you learned from having Tyler transition?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's crazy. I've learned everything. I've learned that death is not the end. There is no death. And I have zero fear of it. And that is so liberating. And I live so free. I live free. I love the simple things in life, and I enjoy every moment, because I know that it's temporary, and I know there is no separation. There is no real separation between us and those we love. Love never dies. Isn't that what one of the gals in our group always posts? Love never dies.
Well, I think you're right. And I think that we all have realized, to have been on this path for a while, that we really don't have a lot of control over what we're doing. I think that our kids are pulling the strings constantly, and we're just working as marionettes, and we're doing what we're supposed to make them happy and to allow them to understand that they can help us here on earth as well. And it's really exciting when you give yourself up to the excitement of the journey and the excitement of understanding that there is more, because I think one of the things that you agree with is that you don't fear death at all. None of us here who has a child on the other side fears death, because boy, oh boy, that's just another, it's another step towards learning something more. Of course, I want to stay here as long as possible, and I hope everyone wants to stay here as long as possible as well, to learn as much as I can before I get over there and hug every single one of these kids, including Tyler. And that'll be just an amazing thing. But anyway, so Carol, one thing I'd really like to do, we only have 3 minutes, is maybe if you could give one more validation. I was going to ask you to do the one that's at the end of the book, but I realized that people should read the book to be able to see that one. But could you tell us about the one with the dog food? I just love that one.
Yes, yes, yes. I got a little Yorkie. I had a King Charles, and I had him at this time. He was 14, so he's not here now. But so I decided to get a little Yorkie, and so he's tiny, and he has a dog food bowl that's, teeny tiny. And TJ was home visiting, and TJ has a great big lab. And he called me and he said to me, "What did you do to the dog's food bowl?" And he sounded kind of angry. And TJ does not, he's private. He doesn't like talking about signs. In the beginning, he did anything to help me, but he wants to live his life normally. And I support that, and I understand. But all of a sudden he says, "What did you do to the dog's food bowl?" And I said, "I didn't do anything. You like to feed your own dog." I assumed he was talking about his dog. And he said, "I'm talking about Harley's bowl." And I said, "I put a little dog food in it." And he sounded like he was about to cry. He started to freak out. And he said, "Mom, Tyler is messing with us. This is absolutely insane." And I said, "What is going on?" And he said, "I'll send you a picture." And I did put it in the book, but I'll show you the picture. Tyler would always end all of his texts with a smiley face. And I put a little bit of dog food bowl, a little bit of food in Harley's food bowl. And when TJ saw this, that night he was actually in tears, and we were all in tears, but happy tears. But let me show you this picture that he sent me. And I'm surprised that I can't find it right away, because it was, I'm going to show it to you in my book. How's that? That'll be quicker than trying to find it. Okay. This is what the dog food bowl looked like.
So hopefully everybody can see that. It is a very sweet smiley face that was in the dog bowl that TJ was very upset about, because he thought that his mom had just made that food into a design like that.
And it was just, I can't tell you the joy. TJ started sending it to, his grandparents, my mom and dad. And then I started sending it to my sisters. And even to this day, my dad's so cute. He didn't used to believe in anything, but he's had so much proof now. He was like me. He didn't believe in God. And he will, to this day, he'll say, "Tell them about the dog food bowl." Whenever we have friends, and he gets really emotional, but he's like, "Show him the dog food bowl." And he asked me once to send him the picture of it. And
it's just amazing. And you're amazing, Carol. And I am so grateful for you speaking to us this evening. we don't really have very much more time, but I just want everyone to know that, of course, Carol is always available. She is a caring listener, and she's also one of our
Absolutely.
affiliate leaders. So she has monthly meetings. She also will have some more. I mean, she has book club meetings, and she's on our board. So she's definitely someone that you can reach out to. And again, I do want to just say David Router, I saw his name in the chat box. Thanks for putting it in there. I think Kathy did. We are having a conference. I know some people were saying conference, what conference? We already have 800 people who have signed up. We're very, very excited about it. If you really would like to come, please do, but we don't have a lot of space available. So please sign up as quickly as you can. All of the information is on our website, www.helpingparentsheal.org, on the resources tab. So anyway, but thank you so much, Carol, for being here. And at the end of all of these meetings, we ask everyone to unmute and say thank you and goodbye. And I'm sure Irene has already done that. Have you done
Yes.
that,
Thank
Irene?
you, Carol. Oh my gosh,
Thank
what a great
Thank you,
story.
Carol.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Carol.
Thank
Carol.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Carol.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Carol.
Elizabeth.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
Yes.
you.
Carol,
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Carol.
thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Have a
Gracias,
wonderful
Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. See you
Bye,
soon.
everyone.